Right over here, part of the Severeville Greenway, is where this Mississippian substructure, 16 feet high and 240 feet in circumference, built during the Dallas phase and was first excavated in 1881, with artifacts being sent to the Smithsonian. Later excavations exposed nearby villages of the Woodland Indian, dating from 200 AD to the Cherokee, who roamed this valley when the pioneers settled in the late 1700s. This is the McMahon Indian Mound here in Sevierville, Tennessee. And let's go. Good morning, good people. This is P9 coming at you with another vlog, and I am here in the city of Sevierville, Tennessee. Now, Sevierville is the county seat of Sevier County with a population of 17,889 as of the 2020 census. And Sevierville is one of the many tourist cities in the Greater Smoky Mountains area. And Sevierville was once inhabited by the Woodland, the Native Americans of the Woodland period, and the Mississippian period, which are two different periods in the pre-founding of Sevierville. So they're the original inhabitants of this land. And right now I'm in downtown Sevierville, right outside the Sevier County Heritage Museum, as you can see right here. And here's a marker with some history pertaining to Sevierville as it pertains to the railroads. Sevier's first train was the Knoxville, Sevierville and Eastern Railway, or the KS&E for short, and it was notoriously behind schedule and quickly earned the nickname Old, Slow and Easy because the train only averaged 11 miles an hour due to many stops along its route. After several aborted attempts to acquire railroad service between Knoxville and Sevierville, the first train, greeted by joyous fanfare of over 600 people, arrived in Sevierville in 1910. And the tracks initially stopped west of the river, but in 1916 a trestle was constructed and the tracks continued along and beyond Brew Street, and the line ran past Pigeon Forge and south to McCookville, about halfway to Gatlinburg. Originally planned to reach Newfound Gap, the railway was never completed. Throughout a financial rocky history, the line operated under 4 different names: Knoxville, Sevierville, and Eastern, Knoxville and Carolina, Tennessee and North Carolina, and Smoky Mountain. Founder William J. Oliver envisioned selling his new railroad to the growing Southern Railway system, but the sale never happened. And undaunted, Oliver built his line anyway, anticipating a future over mountain link with another railroad in North Carolina. So in essence, KS&E was built through a bunch of cuts and gaps in the mountains just south of Knoxville. So it was an extensive project nevertheless, which a lot of these railroads were when they were built in these vast mountainous regions. But this is the history. So the final train ran in January 1961 and its rails were removed 5 years later. So those are images right here. This is the KS&E arriving in Sevierville. Railroad trestle bridge crossing the Little Pigeon River right there. The Old, Slow and Easy chugging towards Sevierville. And here's two gentlemen standing outside the Seville Railroad Depot in 1916. So again, the KS&E, also known as the Old, Slow, and Easy. And here are some tracks that were originally laid along Brew Street in 1916. But these train tracks were unearthed in 2020, 5 years ago. And this section was reconstructed and dedicated in 2021 as a tribute to Sevierville's historic railroad. So yeah, there you have it. The railroad history right here in Sevierville. And just to give some more insight in the background of Sevierville. Sevierville came about when James McMahon donated 25 acres of tract of land for erecting a town square. And the town only grew from there, and it was named after James Sevier, one of the founding fathers of the state of Tennessee, who was also a colonel of the Battle of Kings Mountain during the American Revolutionary War. So that's how the city of Sevierville got its name, from James Sevier. And now we're downtown and we got a lot of the cool shops, as you can see right over here. And this is the Appalachian, which looks like it is a restaurant. And check out this mural right here. This mural sits on the side of a building that's occupied by a series of restaurants and one salon and spa. But it used to be known as a restaurant called Red's Cafe. And this mural is a depiction of a young Dolly Parton, who's also a native of Sevierville. This is the legendary country music singer Dolly Parton as a child. And she basically, you know, grew up here, and she recalls fond memories of going to Red's Cafe as a child. So yeah, really cool, really cool. It's called Dolly Parton Memories at Red's Cafe. And this mural was done by Seth Bishop of the Smoky Mountain Mural Company. So there goes Seth Bishop, a muralist, a local, and Laird Benzo. There goes their social media handles right there, along with their telephone numbers apparently. And that's pretty cool too. They have it to where you can scan a QR code to play a video that corresponds with Dolly Parton's memories right here. Very nice, very nice. Buffalo Breakfast Company. Established 2024. They also have a restaurant called Gray's Burgers right here. Here's some more history as it pertains to Sevierville. You had Franklin D Roosevelt enjoying the motorcade. So FDR rode a motorcade through Sevierville. And you had President Franklin D Roosevelt and his son John Roosevelt, who made a visit through the town. And you also had President Roosevelt, who made an unscheduled stop at Sevierville Post Office to invite Postmaster Ralph Murphy to join his entourage. So that's pretty cool. And then you have Roosevelt, who made a speech, it looks like on top of a mountain, in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. So this was in 1940. So basically, you know, during his re-election campaign, Franklin D Roosevelt left Washington D.C. and he made his campaign trail right here through Sevierville on a special train overnight from Knoxville, Tennessee. So there you have it. Lots of history right there. How y'all doing? They have a quilt shop right here too. They have a quilt shop. Ogle building. Check this out. I'm at the corner of Brew Street and Court Avenue. Get ready to make my way down this way. We're over here by the Sevier County Courthouse. Make my way over there in just a second. But check out these buildings right here. A lot of like law firms in these buildings, law firms and investment firms. I'm on Court Avenue, which was originally known as Cross Street back in the early 1900s. So there's just some images right here of this particular avenue back in the 1950s. Here's one right here in 1910. And regarded as the heart of Sevierville's historic commercial district, the buildings on Court Avenue were constructed after the courthouse was completed in 1896. They have been occupied continually by various businesses throughout the years. Originally named Cross Street, it once served as the driveway leading from Main Street to the residence of Bruce McMahon. The centerpiece of Court Avenue is the Sevier County Courthouse, an excellent example of Beaux Arts architecture. Its brick walls are 13 inches thick. Its limestone foundation was locally sourced and transported to the site by horse-drawn wagons. And grand architectural elements including glided domes and a tower housing a traditional four-sided Seth Thomas clock, the building's most prominent feature, are visible from miles away. So a lot of these commercial buildings with brick facades facing the courthouse, as you can see over there. And we're going to get closer up in just a second. These were built in the early 1900s by African-American artisans whose work exemplified fine local craftsmanship. In the late 1860s, Isaac Dockery built a brick kiln near Sevierville and established a brick masonry business. After the Civil War, Dockery became instrumental in establishing the brick masonry tradition within the African-American culture of Sevier County. Often his initials, ID, or sometimes a date, were inscribed on his bricks as a trademark. His most notable buildings are located on Court Avenue, and many of them are recognized as landmarks. So there was also a fire that swept through in 1901, and it destroyed a hardware store called the Pinckney Seaton's hardware store right here on Public Square. So it's a lot of cool history right over here. A lot of tragic history and cool history as well. And this is just about Sevierville's first woman merchant, Victoria Mall. once known as Wade's Department Store, was constructed in 2 phases. Prior to 1900, the portion facing Court Avenue was built by Andy Love to house Love's Butcher Shop. Later, J.T. Troder owned and operated a hardware store at the location. So this was during the Great Depression, and then during the Great Depression in 1929, the department store was sold to Dwight Wade Sr., who founded Wade's Department Store in 1929. And Victoria Wade, who was the wife, was a woman ahead of her time. She was an independent and strong-willed woman, divorcee, single mother, and competitive businesswoman. She began working in Sevierville department stores and became a partner in the corner store in 1921. And she built a 2-story boarding house on Joy Street, and her entrepreneurial spirit maximized its occupancy to help her defer the cost of college for both her children. And there goes Victoria Wade right there on the left. And they were also a bunch of sales clerks that worked in the store. And this is Wade's Department Store back in 1963, after the flood that hit Sevierville, damaged it. But it was right around this this building right here is where the location of that department store was, which is now the Victoria Mall. You also have this sculpture called Dr. Massies Bird Dog. The bird dog belonged to Dr. Zachary David Massey, a Sevierville physician who served as a term as 1st District Congressman and was a board member of Sevier County Bank. His faithful dog accompanied him daily to the office. In the early 1900s, Dr. Massey would place his deposit in a pouch each day, give it to Birdie, who would carry the pouch in her mouth to the bank. She would give the pouch to the teller and wait for the money, and wait while the money was counted and a deposit slip was written. So this was an image created by Mary Rudin, 2022. But there goes the image by Mary Rudin, and that's Dr. Zachary David Massey, who was a physician, and that was his service dog, Birdie the bird dog. Pretty cool sculpture right there. Carol McMahon, Sevier County historian, Charles Blaylock and Sons Inc., Austin and Katie Williams, Ross and May Summit family, and the Sevierville Chamber of Commerce worked on that sculpture. Just wanted to give them a shout out. But let's keep it moving. Garden Floritique, I think that's how it's pronounced. And this looks like right here, this is the building that housed the Troder and Seatan hardware store, which was established in the late 1800s by Louis Troder and Pinckney P. Seatan. And his business was located at several downtown businesses. And founder Louis Troder died in 1905, and his heir sold his interest, and subsequent shareholders came and went during the following his death. On October 14th, Pinckney Seedy, M.P. Thomas Jr., Paul Murphy, and Ed Emmert constructed the building at 128 Court Avenue. And in 1936, the hardware purchased a two-story building, large two-story building at the southwest corner of Brew Street and Court Avenue. So this is some images of back in the day of this hardware store. That's Edgar Ed Emmert sitting at his desk in the store. And this is the hardware store in 1929. And these are all the owners of the store. As you can see, and a parade passes in front of the hardware store in 1957. A lot of history. Let me make my way across the street over here to the courthouse. Here's a historical marker about Isaac Dockery. As we mentioned before, he was a native of Sevier County and an African-American brick maker and mason, established brick kilns near Sevierville And after the Civil War, he built or made bricks for many buildings in Sevierville, including the Masonic Lodge in 1893, the New Salem Baptist Church 1886, and the Sevier County Courthouse 1896, which is where we're standing at right now. A talented master builder, he taught several generations of local brick masons. Shout out to Isaac Dockery. Yeah, you know, brick masonry is a lot of work. It's a lot of work involved in that. You know what I'm saying? It's definitely a trade that is highly in demand. And this brings us to Sevier County's courthouse, to the front of it. And right here, you have the legendary Dolly Parton, who is a native of this city of Sevierville. And just to give some background of Dolly Parton, distinguished as a singer, songwriter, actor, businesswoman, and philanthropist, Dolly Parton is the most honored female country performer of all time and among the best-selling country artists of the post-World War II era. She opened one of the country's most visited attractions, Dollywood, and wrote one of the top-selling songs of all time, I Will Always Love You. Now, I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys are familiar with I Will Always Love You. It was most notably covered by the late, great Whitney Houston for the Bodyguard soundtrack. But just to continue on with Dolly Parton, among Parton's accolades are 9 Grammys, including 1 for Lifetime Achievement, 10 Country Music Association Awards, 7 Academy of Country Music Awards, and 3 American Music Association Awards. She has also been nominated for 2 Emmys, 1 Tony Award, and 2 Academy Award, aka Oscars. One of them was for her song 9 to 5. Working 9 to 5. Yeah, y'all remember that. I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys remember it. Although she is regarded as a country singer and was inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame in 1999, her flamboyant personality has endeared her to many who do not consider themselves country music fans. Exactly. So she inspired, like, she basically appealed to people who didn't even listen to country music. That's how dope she was. Dolly Rebecca Parton was born on January 19, 1946 in Locust Ridge in rural Sevier County, the 4th of 12 children. She drew on her family's impoverished circumstances for several songs, notably Coat of Many Colors. Now, just to give a backstory on Coat of Many Colors, Dolly Parton performed with Porter Wagner, was who you see right here. And Porter Wagner was known for his really nice dapper suits. And when Dolly Parton was coming up with the songs, the lyrics and whatnot for Coat of Many Colors, she was on a tour bus, but she didn't have anything to write on. So she took a dry cleaning bill or a dry cleaning receipt from Porter Wagner and just started writing her song for Coat of Many Colors, which talks about her mother, knitting together a coat from different colors, different colored fabrics and whatnot, from scratch, because they, due to their poor circumstances and whatnot. And that song was really a hit. It was really a hit. And and also she references in that song about when her mother read her the story of Joseph in the Bible, and how Joseph also wore a coat that had many colors on it. So basically that's where she got the inspiration from the song, from her mother knitting together that coat that she had with all those different colors, and her mother reading her about the story of Joseph in the Bible. But yeah, the day after her high school graduation in 1964, Parton went to Nashville and found initial success as a songwriter. In 1967, country star Porter Wagner brought her onto his television show and began producing her for RCA Victor Records, both as a solo performer and his duet partner. Her first #1 country hit, Joshua, came in 1971, and another #1 hit, Jolene, Parton left Wagner's television show. Her 1974 #1, I Will Always Love You, in February of that year was viewed as her confirming her intention to sever all her contractual obligations to Wagner. So managed out of Hollywood, Parton began broadening her appeal. Her 1977 album, Here You Come Again, became a #1 country album and top 20 pop album. She starred in the movie 9 to 5, one of the all-time highest grossing comedies. Her and her title song topped the country and pop charts. In 1983, she scored her second and last #1 pop hit with Islands in the Stream, a duet with country music great Kenny Rogers. And just as a side note, Islands in the Stream had inspired the song, I don't know if you guys remember, Ghetto Superstar, that came out like around 1998. It was Pras from the Fugees, and it featured Maya and also the late Old Dirty Bastard from Wu-Tang Clan. It was such a huge hit back in 1998, but it was inspired by the song Islands in the Stream. So I just wanted to throw that as a side note. And here goes an image right here from left to right. Here goes Jane Fonda on the far left. There goes Dolly Parton right there in the middle, and Lily Tomlin in costume for the film 9 to 5. And as I mentioned earlier, in 1992, Whitney Houston's recording of I Will Always Love You spent 14 weeks at #1 on the pop chart and is ranked among the top 10 selling singles of all time. And Parton stretched her career in several directions, most notably in launching Dollywood. So Dollywood's a very famous amusement park attraction. And yeah, so you know, her upbringing right here in the Appalachian inspired a lot of her music. And I also want to make a personal story about Dolly Parton. Now, I never really listened to a ton of Dolly Parton music. I did, you know, upon doing my research coming here, I did listen to a lot of her songs, and they were really dope. You know what I'm saying? It was a lot of soul and a lot of just really great storytelling. And Dolly Parton still performing to this day, even at her age. I remember a couple of years ago, back in 2023, I think she was like 76 years old. I remember my family invited me out to Texas. We went to go to the Dallas Cowboy game, and on around Thanksgiving, and they were playing the Washington Redskins, and Dolly Parton performed at the halftime show. So that was the first time I actually saw somebody perform, like a, you know, famous musician perform in person. I've never been to a concert before, so I thought that was pretty cool. But yes, this is a statue of Dolly Parton, and it was sculpted by Jim Gray, and it sits right in front of the Sevier County Courthouse. And this statue of Dolly Parton was erected through the generosity of the people of Sevier County and dedicated May 3rd, 1987. So this statue was sculpted on top of this rock, and that's her with the butterfly sitting on top of the guitar. And right along the fret, and that's her right there smiling, like she always did. She always had that really nice smile and that really great orator. So shout out to Dolly Parton, country music legend. And this is right on time as the bell just rung right here. Walking down further down Court Street, and here is a marker of a vigilante group called the White Caps, who formed with the goal of ridding Sevier County of individuals, mostly women, doomed lewd or adulterous. Their modus operandi was to leave the offending party a note signed White Caps, occasionally accompanied by hickory switches warning them to leave town. If this tactic proved ineffective, the group escalated to whippings. So in other words, they wanted to arrest individuals who were lewd and adulterous, mainly women. And they took offense to a bunch of lewd and lascivious acts that were performed in the city. There goes Sheriff Millard Fillmore Maples, who was elected by a narrow margin in 1894 and worked hard to combat the reign of terror inflicted on Sevier County citizens by the White Caps organization. And this is the gallows behind the courthouse where Please Win and Catlett Tipton were hanged in 1899. And Deputy Tom Davis worked tirelessly to apprehend the notorious White Caps and was later elected sheriff to Sevierville. And this was the baptism of Please Win, taken just hours before he and Catlett Tipton were hanged for the murders of William and Laura Whaley. So basically, the White Caps brutally murdered Laura and William Whaley in the presence of their infant child. Their savage deaths turned public opinion against the White Caps. Catlett Tipton and Please Win were convicted of the Whaley murders and publicly executed at the Sevier County Courthouse on July 5th, 1899. So this is Tom Davis right here again, who was responsible for convicting Tipton and Please Win. So in other words, I guess they figured they were a vigilante group that were, you know, I guess they figured they would kill people or you know, excuse me, like end people, you know, basically for, you know, like on there, I guess on a moral high ground, I guess, if you will, for lack of a better term. They felt like they were morally obligated to take out individuals who were lewd and lascivious, but I really think they were just bloodthirsty individuals. That's what it sounded like to me from what I got from the story. And check this out. This is Red Soda Fountain and Ice Cream. This restaurant was actually established in 1946. So I'm right outside of that. And I'm right over here outside the historic Central Hotel. I'm gonna get to the front of it in just a second. But I'm approaching the corner of Court Avenue and Main Street. And here you have it. This is the front of the historic Central Hotel. This hotel was established in 1890. And it was built in 1890, located on the public square. The hotel was a white clapboard structure with a double stacked front porch. So here's some images of the hotel. 1890, the original Central Hotel opened. It remained in business until it was destroyed by fire in 1923. The new Central Hotel replacement structure was built of brick, and it was built by black contractors. In 1924, the replacement building was erected. So so that's to mention Isaac Dockery earlier. He played a part in the brick laying for this building. And in 1948, the first long distance call was placed by Mayor Robert Howard from the hotel. So this is the Central Hotel historical marker, again opened in 1890 and located on the public square. And the hotel was a white clapboard structure with a double stacked front porch. And it went from that to this. Now here's some history of the Bench Memorial. J&G Fox Sr. In the public square history, the Old Town Square served as Sevier County's busiest and most important commercial center for over a century and a half. From 1795 until 1897, Sevier County's pioneer courthouses, jails, stocks, and gallows stood here. Many structures which served as homes, hotels, liveries, General merchandise, hardware stores, mills, along with the jails and courthouses were destroyed by fires and floods over the years, and the public square continued to emerge as a vital area of activity until the center, affectionately called Teapot Dome, was destroyed in the 1950s for the widening of US 441 and 411 today. So yes, so this was the public square over here at the corner of the hotel, as you can see. So essentially this area basically loops back to the this is Main Street, which functions as the corridor which leads to I-40. So this is essentially the main drag, the main commercial district around this area, which links to downtown. Here's another marker. It's about Thomas Ashley, who was a soldier of the Colonial Army in 1775 and veteran of the American Revolution. And he served alongside Private Andrew Jackson under the commander of Brigadier General James Robertson in the Indian Wars of the Lower Tennessee, led by Major Orr during the state of Franklin. Thomas Ashley and his wife Lydia settled along Outer Branch, a tributary of the French Broad River. So this is a historical marker dedicated to Thomas Ashley from the Sevierville Museum of History and Art. So that marker was dedicated back in 1986. And this fountain has been erected to the to the memory of Sanders L. Ashley. And here is the nice fountain right here. It looks like it has a pineapple design, and it's really dope. Sits right in here in front of the Central Hotel. Here's a marker basically talking about Sevierville being settled around 1783. This town, first called Forks of Little Pigeon, was organized as the county seat of Sevier County in 1795. Indian trader Isaac Thomas's home was first courthouse, fort, and tavern. Jas McMahon gave 25 acres of tract for the town, which was later named for the John Sevier, the first governor of the state. And here's a marker that just basically talks about Colonel William Thomas and the Civil War that erupted right here on these grounds. And there was companies of men that were rallied by William Holland Thomas against the Cherokee tribe. Wow, interesting. Colonel Thomas was furious on December 8th when he rushed 200 men to Sevierville. They surprised the guard, broke open the jail, and released the prisoners. So that was a raid essentially. And James was guarding the Sevier County Courthouse along with several other federal home guards. So this was the Sevier County back in 1857. And these are basically events that led up to the Civil War. And that's Colonel Thomas right there. Jonathan Mize Graves site. So really cool historical markers. And here's another marker right here. William Whaley, one of the many volunteers of the war in 1812. A farmer and later Baptist minister, Whaley married in 1811. And had a daughter, and also was the minister of the Baptist church called Oak Flats. So there goes William Whaley. There goes Timothy Reagan. who was a soldier of the American Revolution and was famous for the Battle of Brandywine in 1777 with Major General Marquis de Lafayette, where both men were wounded. And here's Isaac Thomas, soldier of the American Revolution. Isaac Thomas guided John Sevier's army to Kings Mountain, as well as serving with him in many battles against the Indians. So essentially, they fought, these individuals, William Whaley, Timothy Reagan, and Isaac Thomas, fought in battles against the Cherokee Indians, you know, who were occupied, you know, at the time the Europeans came over. The Cherokees were occupied most of this area in the 1800s. But as I mentioned earlier, you know, you also had the Native Americans from the Mississippian period who originally occupied this area, and the Woodland period, who were the original inhabitants back in 200 AD. So lots of natives occupied this area before European settlement. Walking down Brew Street, right outside the Sevier County Sheriff's Office. It's on the side of the courthouse right here. I just wanted to come over here and get this history of Sevierville and its natural disasters. Now, because of its proximity to the rivers, Sevierville was vulnerable to devastating floods from its founding until the late 1960s. As if flooding wasn't enough, disastrous floods, or fires, have also plagued the town. The oldest record of major flood was recorded in 1867 at 16.5 stage feet. Since then, more than a dozen major floods have been recorded. The largest flood ever recorded in Severeville was in 1875 at 18 feet, and by 1896, a flood measuring 16.8 feet damaged most businesses along with many dwellings. Another damaged flooding occurred in 1920. This time, the official recorded flood level was 16 feet. And in 1928, a flood reached a height of 15.5 feet. Both prongs of the Little Pigeon River once again overflowed in 1957. The last deluge occurred in 1965, 2 years after a series of floods over a 2-week period left Severeville a federal disaster area. So right here, you can see these images right here. You know, these were images of the floodeds. This is Court Avenue in 1963. And it's like a guy that's literally standing in the flood. Like he's just buried in the flood, basically. You know, at least it comes up to his, midsection. And you have the Temple Milling Company fire, 1980. They go to firefighters that are fighting that fire. And the corner of Brew Street and Court Avenue, there's people literally on a boat just trying to paddle and trying to navigate through the flood waters. And here's the flood at the forks of the river in 1920. So several floods have hit Sevier County and Sevierville. And you know, basically talking about this image, the Great Fire of 1856 was the Temple Milling Company's blaze in 1980. So the most dramatic fire since the Great Fire of 1856 was the Temple Milling Company's blaze in 1980, where a total of 105 men with 12 trucks fought the flames. By constantly spraying water on its roof, the heroic firemen managed to save the historic courthouse. Oh wow, so the courthouse didn't even actually burn down because of these heroic firefighters right here. So shout out to the Milling Company fire department, or fires, you know. Yeah, this is Brew Street right here. It's a nice floral arrangement right there. Nice plant. Citizens National Bank. Walking down the other end of Court Avenue, I passed by this building. Apparently, they have this Old Smoky Tennessee moonshine sign right here on the side of the building. So, yeah, of course, Tennessee is known for its moonshine. And that moonshine is strong. Not as strong as whiskey though, but it's strong. I'm not a drinker, but I have had an experience with moonshine a couple of years ago on my birthday. And that was my first time experiencing moonshine, and let's just say it was quite an experience. Yeah. This used to be the Davis Hotel back in the day. It was originally a Davis Hotel, this building. Has a, right outside of it, it's like right inside of the building, it's a lobster restaurant, seafood spot called Pinchy's Lobster. Which brings us over here to the Pines Theater, the historic Pines Theater. As you can see right here, this is a historic Pines Theater. And the Pines was originally operated by Miss J.B. Waters or Myrtle Payne. And the Pines Theater opened in 1944 on the southwest corner of Joy Street and Court Avenue, which is where we stand now. And the structure was originally built in 1928 by her husband J.B. Waters Sr. to house Watson Motor Company. Waters operated the J.B. Waters Motor Company, a Chrysler, Plymouth, and International truck dealership in that location. And at the start of World War II, this meant that all cars and trucks made in 1942 were redirected for military use for aiding the war effort. With no inventory in stock, Waters closed the dealership and began making plans to convert the building into a motion picture theater. With seating for 70 people, the largest projection equipment, a large stage with controlled curtains, and state-of-the-art lighting, the Pines Theater showed motion pictures and welcomed live performances. Saturdays at the Pines were a delight with featured motion pictures and serial movies. So, you know, this was a lot of regular performers locally, came over here to the Pines to perform. This included Archie Campbell, Chet Atkins, Roy Acuff, the Carter family, the Carlisle brothers, Hotshot Elmer, Bill Monroe, Don Gibson, Pee Wee King, the Louvin brothers, and many others. So here's some images that correspond with the Pines Theater. This is an image, and it was originally built in 1928 as the Watson Motor Company. So as you see right here, you have that what looks like that old Volkswagen Beetle or buggy, whatever it was called back then. But it sat in front of the Pines Theater, which was originally Watson Motor Company. And that's Myrtle and J.B. Waters, who lived next door and owned the building and operated the theater. And the Pines Theater had a large seating capacity. Well, actually, no, excuse me. The Pines Theater had a seating capacity of 700 and a large stage with controlled curtains and state-of-the-art lighting. And there goes a young Dolly Parton right there, pictured with her uncle standing beside the Pine Theaters, where she sang for the first time before a paying audience at age 10. So Dolly Parton was performing in front of a live audience at an early age. So she's been performing practically her entire life. Pretty much her entire life, you know. But yeah, this is the Pines Theater today. And here we come across another really nice work of art. This is a mural right here on the side of the Pines Theater, and it's called the Pines Mural. The Pines Mural was designed by Seth Bishop in 2022. So from left to right here you have Roy Acuff, who was a singer, musician. That's him right there. It looks like he has a little scarf around his neck. And you have Archie Campbell, who was a comedian from Tennessee. That's him right there. And you have Miss Dolly Parton right here, singer, songwriter, country music singer, country music extraordinaire, might I add. Sorry if it feel like I'm glossing her, but this is June Carter Cash right here, who was also a musician. And finally, you have right here, you have musician Chet Atkins. And mind you, all of these musicians are and performers are right here, are locally, were originally from Tennessee. They were born and raised here. And again, that's Chet Atkins. It looks like he's smoking a cigarette. And again, this was by Seth Bishop. There goes his Instagram handle right there. And which leads me to the conclusion of this Severeville video, this Severeville vlog. I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in to this vlog. If you made it this far, make sure you hit the like button. Also, if you're new to this channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button along with the notification bell. And once you hit the notification bell, make sure you select all. That way you get notified each and every time I drop a new vlog. And with that in mind, good people, thanks for tuning in. See you guys on the next one. Peace.